Hello, Steves, Alexes, and every skin in between. Welcome to Block Game Banter. My name's Insecure Code.
I'm Firecracker.
I'm Dino.
And I'm OniShizen.
Today we are going to be discussing all things related to the 1.18 update that dropped just a couple of days ago. Would anyone like to start?
I think we should start with exploring the world. So, Ferks, you were given the task of how does one explore this world?
Okay, well, I feel like if you've been playing Minecraft for a while, you know that you should have like a stack of wood, some torches, food, that kind of stuff before you go exploring. But today I'm going to talk about 3 things that I've found for 118 are really useful for you to have. And my number one thing is a water bucket. So it's cool because there's a lot more surface iron now in the new generation. So getting 3 pieces of iron to make a bucket is not that hard. Okay. And it's easy to make charcoal. The reason you're going to need water is, first of all, I don't know how many of you in this call have gotten zinged by the powdered snow yet, but
I have.
the first time I logged in and I walked on snow, I immediately started freezing to death. And I'm like, oh, right, that's a thing. That's going to be very inconvenient. So I was doing a little testing today and I found out that you can use water to melt powdered snow. So if you have a water bucket with you and you're out exploring and you run into powdered snow, you can just put the water source down, let it melt, pick it up, move on. I mean, it's slow, but it's easier than finding leather and making leather boots, right? Another thing you're going to need that water bucket for is the caves are freaking massive and there's not always a way down. So using the water to get down and then be able to have a way back up is pretty necessary. So I'm going to say that that's like my number one thing. Oh, and there's something I always forget that you can do, which is if there's a bunch of creepers coming at you, you can just put down some water and they'll float like away from you a little bit, or you can run around the puddle and try and, avoid them until you can get you can get your weapon out. I mean, I'm a professional Minecrafter. I should have my weapon on my hotbar.
You don't need
I
that.
do have some, I have inventory issues every once in a while. So, I mean, the water would give you that little bit of time in order to get your weapon out. So that's my first thing. My second thing would be a bucket of lava because they've changed the spawning for hostile mobs. And so if you're in an area and you don't want things to spawn and you see that, what are the caves called? I can't remember. Who has the generation or is talking about generation?
That's a cross between myself and you, actually.
Okay, so the caves are now called what generation?
Oh, are we referring? Yeah, the noodles and spaghetti and cheese.
Right. So if you've got like the noodles and spaghetti ones where it's like a thing going down that's kind of going down fairly rapidly, you can use that bucket of lava to light the whole way down, right? And lava moves pretty slow in the overworld, so you could put it down and pick it up and have it go down the shaft and follow it. So you've got light, right, to see where you're going, and it's lighting up the cave, and it's also killing things in front of you. So, and you can use it. I don't know if any of you have ever used it like for ABBA caving, where you don't necessarily have a weapon and you just put it on the mobs to kill them. It's a little dangerous. Not that I would ever put lava on myself and die from it, but
Are you sure about that?
That has never happened to anyone in this call ever.
Never.
Especially not Fertz or me.
Nah, never.
Right. Never.
Never.
So then my last thing that I think that people exploring in 118 should have in their pocket before they go down into the caves or up into the cliffs is doors. Okay. And just hear me out. We all know doors are good for keeping mobs out of your house, right? You can also, I'm going to use it, plop them down.
Such a favorite word.
Yes, it is. To block their sight line. Like if you're in a mine, right, down in the caves, just fill 3 of them along the passage, and then, you can open the door, shoot or whatever, or hit, close the door, and you're safe because you've blocked the sight line. So they're good for that, blocking sight lines. We've learned that from doing like the ocean monuments. And in doing ocean monuments, they're also good for air. There's a lot of water in the deep caves. And if you want to explore and try and find passages to other caves that have air, you're going to need to be able to breathe. And using a door will allow you that little bit of time to breathe. So, I mean, those are 2 things I can think of for doors. I don't know if anybody else can think of anything else.
So you could say you're opening a door to new forms of exploration.
Oh, God.
Oh, that was so
Why?
bad.
That
So
was
yes,
horrible.
yes, bring your torches. Yes, bring food. Yes, bring, your stone tools and whatever. And a crafting table. But also remember to bring a bucket of water, a bucket of lava, or an empty bucket because you can find lava under the ground, and bring a stack of doors. I mean, it's a stack. They stack. Why not bring a whole stack of them, right?
Right.
I will
Doors are
say,
OP.
though, as someone who
What?
doesn't explore a lot, but occasionally will, the one thing I'm running into with the new update is the fact that
Mhm.
once you pass Y level 0, coal doesn't generate anymore, and I'm notorious for
Right.
never bringing enough torches.
Right. But if you have wood, okay, this is why you have a stack of wood. You can make a furnace, and then you can make charcoal.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It'll give you at least enough so that you can go back up to where coal's generating, or you can find a mine shaft and mine the wood, right? And then you've got that to make into charcoal. So a couple other tips there.
I will
All
say,
right.
I've seen a couple other things just in pertaining to the exploration of
Yep.
how the ore generation has changed. We'll get to that more when we get to resource gathering. But apparently now, diamond ore, like the original diamond ore that we know in stone, is now one of the rarest blocks in the game because diamond will be generating primarily in deep slate.
Hate that.
But like, you can make
That's
so many cool
interesting.
builds with it now.
Right.
Because it will increase the rate of that specific block spawn, which, mind you, not everyone's going to think that way, because I don't think about diamonds as a tool, because villagers. But
Right.
it's interesting to think about how that's going to affect it.
I mean I'm thinking that deep slate diamond would look good with your dino with your underwater theme,
Oh.
right?
Yeah. No,
That
wait,
would-
yeah.
right? We're thinking like builders right now. So I guess we're going to put a picture of what I'm talking about that Dino did.
Oh, yeah.
And right. And then maybe see how that deep slate diamond would work with that color scheme that Dino's got working.
Yeah. I was messing around for just a couple of minutes being like, what new blocks were added? Realizing that no new blocks were added into the game. They already all existed. But then I realized that skulk sensors could be accessed through commands, and they looked like glow squids. So I thought, underwater build.
Right. I know not all of you use commands or the creative menu, so, you're going to have to wait for the wild update to get that. But for those of us that do know how to do that or do allow it on our servers, you can have the Wandering Traders sell
True.
skulk sensors. So anyway.
It's also just a fun taste for everybody waiting for the wild update of, like, things that can be.
Right.
Yeah. So, in context of exploration, I think your main reason for exploring would come down to resource gathering. So, Code, since you had our lovely study of that, what was your discoveries?
So, to preface what the actual study was, I pretty much speed ran getting a certain amount of all the different ores in 1.17 versus 1.18. And what would have been helpful is if I could have found the proper generation map before the podcast, but it's fine. So in 1.17, I went in for an hour. I timed it to see how much of each resource to get. So my goal was to get for both versions 64 coal, which is super easy realistically, 32 iron, 16 gold, 16 lapis, 8 diamonds, and 32 copper.
Okay.
The copper is the last one on that list because I forgot copper existed when I started this, but I figured it's important to add as well.
Yes.
So after the hour of messing around, I'll have a YouTube video up by the time this podcast is also up, just kind of showing what I did and my thought process. But by the end of it, I had got 14 diamond, way more lapis than I needed, way more copper, way more coal than I needed, 37 gold, and at least 118 iron. So gathering was not a problem in 1.17. It also helps that it's been the same generation for a while, so we know what to expect with that. 1.18 is a completely different story, so I definitely recommend in the future when you are looking for specific resources, take a look at the generation map first. I have a picture of it here.
Yep.
So coal is the easiest to get because it's pretty much like Oni said, it's everywhere except down in Deep Slate. So it's really easy to find. Iron is anywhere besides like where those big veins will spawn. It's more spread out, but it's not impossible to find. So I got about 46 iron ingots. Gold was surprisingly easier than I thought it was. I got 22. Copper, 35. I got mad at the copper, so I stopped trying to get all the copper I could.
I got mad at the copper. That's awesome.
There's my opinion on copper. I don't like it. I got mad at trying to get more of it.
How dare.
But because it was in the specific generation I had when I was doing this test, I couldn't find the cave that drops all the way down into Deep Slate without also falling significantly farther, and I don't trust my abilities in MLG. So I did not get as many diamonds as I could have. I got 4.
Okay.
But I did successfully find diamond, which means it is possible to do in the first hour of gameplay.
Okay.
I also was going to try to find emeralds, but I didn't want to go mining for emeralds in 1.17 and had no idea how they generated in 1.18. So keep that in mind. If you decide to go mining for emeralds, don't go down, go up.
Right.
It sounds weird, but the closer you get to... Wait, what is the highest coordinate now for generation? Do we know what that is? 256?
Yeah, that has
Yep.
to change.
The closer to that you get, the easier it is to find emeralds, but the harder it is to find pretty much everything else except for coal.
It looks
So
like
weird.
it bumps out a little bit, like at 232, just a smidge more, just a smidge.
I'm trying to open the picture and my computer is saying no.
That's fine. But you're right.
But
It
regardless.
is sonically, negative 16 is like the least, and then it widens to the top at 256.
So that also has to change like how you're mining to actually get resources, because you can't just go down to like Y level 12 anymore and start mining. It's more of you have to figure out what you're going to look for first, because iron and diamond don't necessarily spawn in the same places anymore.
Can I ask a clarifying question? When you were doing this, looking for stuff, were you strip mining, or were you looking like for surface ores, or what? How were you searching?
I did a mix of both. To initially
Okay.
find like iron and coal and stuff like that, it was mostly surface mining.
Okay.
Because it's still easy and possible to do, especially since my words are hard. The first thing I did in both was find a cave or ravine to jump into, because that's where you can find coal and iron really quickly.
Gotcha.
And you were you started from scrap with this. You went and punched a tree, grabbed the wood.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No cheats, nothing spawned in. I have the full hour recorded. It just was basically the most normal Minecraft can get to gather everything.
Cool.
So basically, you're saying death of the strip mine?
Strip mining, unless there's like a specific thing you're looking for, like you can go down and specifically strip mine for diamonds. you're just not going to find very much of anything else if you're down in deep slate looking for diamonds or in normal stone looking for iron. The variety is just a lot more limited. So I'm going to have to start planning out new mining strategies, guys.
Moral of the
Sad.
story: resource gatherers who just want stone are fine.
Right.
100%.
Yes, this would be great for me.
I mean, at least it'll make getting deep slate easier, considering instead of spawning in like patches, it's spawning entirely.
Yeah,
Yep.
It does look really cool, though.
we're gonna have so much tough just to freak code out.
Yes.
I hate the tough.
Oh, come on now.
Oh my god. It makes bad sound, and me no like bad sound. That is
Oh,
the
yeah,
dumbest
turn
sound
your
way I
block-
can say it.
Just turn your block sounds down.
But I like the other block sounds.
Wait. Can you remap just one sound?
Yes, you can make a texture pack specifically for that.
There you go.
Okay, so that is what I'm
Solid
going to be
texture
doing
pack,
after this
so
podcast.
Tough sounds like deep slate for you.
There you go.
Yes, perfect.
Cool. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Woo.
Wonderful. Okay, I believe the next two topics consist of mine and dinos, and those specifically were to focus on building aspects and then building based on terrain. My
Okay.
focus was on terrain because I am a massive nerd for terraforming, and Dino loves their color palettes and mixing and matching things to make them look interesting. Dino, you want to go first?
Okay. Sure. Yes. So my big takeaway, aside from underwater building being really cool with like skulk sensors, and I'm really excited for all those other ones because they look good with the glow squids, which I love. I love glow squids.
Finally,
Anyone
Glow
else
squid
with glow
lighting.
squid? I like glow squids. Okay.
Hey, that's fine.
You're just weird.
Wait, I have a question, and I don't know if you found this out. Can you put a glow squid behind glass down in the caves, and does it give off light to stop spawning with the new mob spawning? This is something we need to science.
Yeah, we're gonna have to science that one. Include that
We'll have to
information at the
science.
end of this.
That
Or
would be
yeah,
cool.
we could science that, or we could include that information on a tweet that comes out after this podcast.
True, I like that answer.
I like that
Yeah.
better.
So
So
check
if
the
you
Block
guys
Game
want to
Banter
know,
Twitter and follow it. We'll post some weird facts in there.
yeah, weird extra facts that don't make it in this video. And also tweet at us your weird extra 1.18 facts and opinions.
Yep, and our link is right there.
Yep. Go check us out. But yeah, no, that's something we're definitely gonna have to research. But I love color palettes. I love messing around with color palettes. I love doing all those things. And I mean, a couple episodes ago, we were talking about like our favorite blocks, and one that came up was calcite. And this update with the new generation, instead of just spawning around an amethyst like geode, it now spawns like in huge groups on mountains.
Yeah, I saw
that's
that.
Awesome.
It's so easy to get now. You can get so much of it so quickly and so easily. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
that falls
Finally,
into one of
Diorite
my
has a friend.
diorite friend. You know, but one of my like favorite things to do color palette wise is I like mixing spruce with like the off whites, if that makes sense. Not quartz, but like mushroom stem, diorite, now calcite's in there. I guess like you could use quartz. I'd use quartz before I'd use concrete powder, specifically smooth quartz.
Mm-hmm.
But, like mixing that with like spruce and I like brick, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Stone, deep slate, black stone, your preference. Like I like taking those types of colors and mixing them together and like texturing. I just think it's amazing, and now it's so much easier to get. It's so much easier to get. Yeah, I like also this is just my own personal opinion, but I can see this update being the return of the Hobbit hole builds, like the immense popularity of Hobbit hole
Yep.
builds,
Mhm.
because they've always existed in Minecraft. Like dig into mountain, have house.
Right.
But there's so much more you can do now with like I'm not gonna step on Oni's toes about terrain, but like with the way the terrain looks,
Mm-hmm.
like there's those super like tall mountains covered in snow with like snow at the tops, overlooking the new biome meadows.
Oh yeah.
New favorite
Mhm.
biome, by the way, for me. The meadow biome is amazing. I love it because you get the like bluish grass that you get in
Mhm.
mountains, but in like a field. And it's so good. It's so pretty. But I can just see you hobbit holing above the meadow and just like looking out over it.
Absolutely.
And also another thing with the hobbit holes in the return of that is digging them out. If you find a cave, not a problem.
Right.
It's just like building in the overworld. You just have to build your walls. As long as you light up that cave area, like
You just need a
nothing's
door.
gonna spawn there. I think that'll make things nice. And for me, when I'm making hobbit holes, this is just my own personal opinion. I like throwing in colored concrete or terracotta for the walls because you can make your walls different colors by just deepening your like making your walls 2 blocks thick and then having the door be in the middle. If that makes sense. So you could actually change your wall color in ways that you can't do without like maps and item frames, in like above ground building. So you could have like different colored walls without having all those entities.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just the amount of resources and stone you would get from doing it is amazing. But back to the topic of it, I like mixing cyan concrete for like a wall color with stone brick and a dark oak floor. Like stone brick detailing and dark oak floor and also detailing.
Mm-hmm.
If you see my catch my drift. So I'm really excited to go in and do some builds like that and like test out the different hobbit hole varieties that we can now make based on like surroundings because a lot of things are now just easier to get your hands on and like you can just because of the new generation. If you can find a dripstone, like not a drip, like if you can find a dripstone cave, copper up the wazoo,
Woo.
like, and you can use that for building. I love copper, so I think
me
it's
too.
And
yeah.
back to resource gathering for 1 second with copper. You will not have a hard time finding copper where you find everything like iron, coal, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's
So
much
you
better
are
than it
fine
was.
there.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, with copper, they added with copper in 1.17, when it would drop 2 to 3. What are they called? The nugget things.
Yeah.
What? But
Raw
now
copper?
they drop. Yeah. Yes. But now they drop 2 to 5. So you're getting not only is copper spawning just like the same amount of frequency, but you're getting more with each vein that you find.
That's exciting.
Yes. Okay, I love that. I love that. But yeah, so it's like all of the newer blocks in 1.17 that were hard to get your hands on, except for maybe like amethyst, but that's more of a detail block anyway, are just like so much more common. And so a lot of like what a bunch of creative builders were doing is a lot more feasible in survival. Like it is so much more feasible to do like some of those ridiculous, crazy, and fun builds with copper and with like calcite and with tough and with deep slate. It's so much easier and so much more possible now because of this update and the change in generation. It also just looks really nice. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But like that's mostly my 2 cents. Like I could see you finding a dripstone, like not dripstone. Wow, I can't think. My mind is on dripstone caves because I love them so much. No, the one with moss.
The lush caves.
Lush caves, that's what they're called. I could see people like building kind of like a cottage on stilts because of all the water and the clay around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a cottage on stilts with some lanterns and glowberries around
I
you.
have an example of that one that I will put on the screen because I did that.
You did that? Yeah, that's like that kept coming to my mind. I just couldn't find a lush cave and have the time to build that, but just like a nice, I would honestly use birch for the color palette there. Like a birch cottage on stilts or something. And all that clay is there. You could use brick for your roof. Cover it in like the glow lichen with glowberries and just make this beautiful underground overgrown cottage. Like I don't know, like that's some of my thoughts. Dripstone caves, I think would be really fun to do something kind of more steampunky. I feel like you could do some like underground steampunk, like build a drill, in a dripstone cave and live in that. I actually want to do that now. But like, so I'm kind of spitballing here, but I've thought of these things and now I'm like, the more I'm like talking about them, the more I'm like, yeah, wait. No, but like a drill or something like that, or you could build like you could take mine shafts in those huge open caves and like that are now hanging mine shafts, which are a lot more common too. Like you
Right.
could take those and completely overhaul them for your own thing and create more like diagonal paths and like I could see you doing so much with the open space underground now because you don't have to terraform it as much as you used to.
Right.
Like it makes for us non-terraformers, Oni, you would enjoy digging out a hole and making it look pretty. For people like me,
TNT is our friend.
I don't know how to make efficient farms for anything, so I would be doing it by hand. So like doing stuff like that, like it's a lot easier now. And so I can see myself in survival actually now having a lot more fun doing building because all the things I want are a lot easier to obtain. So I'm excited to actually play survival and do some more building in that.
I absolutely agree. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so I think that that's a good point to transition over to terrain and that kind of stuff, because I think it's important to look at the fact that we now have new terrain. A lot. The meadows included.
Love it.
So, I mean, the first spot to look at is, like, we got the caves, we got the different formations, the cheese, the spaghetti, the noodle. But then when we look at the mountains, we now have 6 sub-biomes in the mountains, which are the meadows, the grove, the snowy slopes, the jagged peaks, and the frozen peaks, and stony peaks. That's a lot of new mountain types.
Well, plus, if it has windswept in front of it, it's like the shattered savannas used to be. So you've got those different types, plus you've got the windswept.
Yeah, I
which
found
is
a windswept
cool.
meadow a couple days ago, and my mind was utterly blown.
Right.
Because there's just a bunch of flowers floating up in the air, and it's not a dark color like the savannas always were. And so I kept looking at that, and I was like, hold on. That's not a savanna.
Is this? What is this?
And I honestly cannot wait to see some of the designs that will come out of that, because I see both people pulling from fantasy and steampunk with those and building bridges that connect them and floating little things like people have always done with the, what's it called? Amplified. Where they build those really cool bridges and houses on cliffs. I can see people doing that with the meadows now, and because it almost matches Flower Forest in the level of flowers and trees and like that level of beauty already mixed into it, I feel like there's going to go a long way with that. Followed up with the fact that I think just looking at the stuff like the groves and the snowy slopes and specifically the frozen peaks, that's a lot of new ice. And
Right.
I rarely see people building with ice, but I can fully see someone going out there and taking on the like Ice Queen's Palace. And that would be amazing.
Right.
Kind of tempted to go do it myself because, you know, we can always pull Frozen out of our butts and go build
Wow.
Elsa's palace up there. You know, big old palace. Because it's been, that's 7 years since that came out.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, no, I feel
was
old,
in
it's fine.
5th grade.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
But that's been out for a long time, and I can totally see now that we have directly generating biomes that the kids who grew up watching that are totally going to go try and build that, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to love seeing people rework these mountains to have giant ice castles on them. And I can, like the Stony Peaks also where you're discussing with the calcite growing, that's a new collection of gravel availability too, because like people who love concrete, great place to get it.
Yeah.
But if we now jump back into the caves where I have been spending a little too much time and then forgetting that I have night vision potions on and having to go turn that off so I can see what my builds actually look like, and having to remember to light things up. But I myself, like I was saying with the Lush Cave, how Dino had brought up the house on stilts. I built one of those a while back in the experimental. I actually streamed building it. I'm going to show a small clip of me walking through it around here. But I adored it, and especially with the layers of the clay that occurs in Lush Caves. I personally found myself terraforming those so that the pools themselves were a little bit bigger, but they were also flowing into each other and not just stacked, because my brain did not like the fact they were just sitting there as puddles and when they could be flowing. And I really, really loved playing with the idea that they would all flow into a giant pool at the bottom that's actually sitting there cooling off some sort of deeper laid magma that's been down there for ages, but it's cooling underneath that water and it's forming the new dirt or the new rocks and stones that are down there. So I played with that idea when I was building that personal project. And I just found myself wanting to incorporate things like mushrooms because it makes sense in my brain for there to be mushrooms in there. I'm a little bothered by the fact it's harder to find mushrooms now. As a hardcore player who doesn't like to use golden apples, mushroom stews, and then putting an oxidazy in it has been my lifesaver, and so when I can't find mushrooms, I'm in trouble. But
Right.
I also
Oh, no.
always think of deep caves about trying to find, and my brain thinks of mushrooms growing down there, because most mushrooms don't need a lot of sunlight. They don't photosynthesize like plants do. So it makes sense in
Right.
my brain that they'd be down there. And so, like, I always sit there and I think about the mushrooms, and I think about pathways that would have made sense for the water to flow down through there. And so when I'm terraforming, I create those points and paths, and I make those flow nabs make sense in my brain. Because I spent an obnoxious amount of time in high school studying erosion. But definitely looking at those things, in addition to looking at the meadow changes, and like Dino said, hobbit holes. They're coming back. When I started my hardcore world for this update a couple days ago, my first instinct was I'm building a hobbit hole in the side of this mountain, looking down on a meadow. Didn't get very far. I didn't die yet, but I ended up moving into a village instead. But I definitely think that the hobbit holes are definitely going to return, and it's going to also, once again, change the meaning of terraforming, because the caves are there. We're not going to have to dig out as much, but we can reform the mountains to be over and around and surround the caves. And I, on multiple occasions, have already run into entire cave systems that are literally just sitting with a cap of a mountain on top of them and only a couple blocks around it holding the mountain up. And I look at that and my brain goes, panic, that's going to collapse, but then realizing it's not gravel. But I definitely can see us just as a collection of creators eventually moving on to, instead of building bases, you find one of those giant caves that goes from 100 blocks above sea level all the way down to negative, I think it's 50 was where this one ended at. And you could hit that point in a matter of seconds because there was a hole going all the way through in a ravine inside the cave, and my first instinct was, keep in mind, I'm a reader. I've always been a reader. And so whenever I would read Divergent, make fun of me later for it, huge fan of that book when I was in early high school. But when I was thinking about the Dauntless stuff, my brain immediately goes back to the way that they described the Dauntless living spaces inside those and incorporating the living spaces into the walls of the cave. And instead of going like Hobbit style, going like the goblins of Lord of the Rings, specifically in the Hobbit trilogy or the Hobbit book, and how those were living on cliff faces and holes in the walls, and it's underground, but it's not entirely, like, it's not a luxurious thing, but it being the dirty, kind of grimy, or you can go ahead and terraform that entire mountain into being, what's the name of the mountain? The Lonely Mountain in The Hobbit. Rebuild it to look like one of the Dwarven societies, and that's what my brain breaks it down to, of you have the natural form terraforming already there. You just got to adjust ever so slightly so there's correct entrances and exits and all those things that would reshape a world that's already generating in such a specific way to create a fantasy realm. Like, we have just been handed a generation style that is already built for fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see what other people come up with, just because it is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, no, I've already got thoughts of finding a big cave and doing like a recreation of the City of Ember.
Oh, yeah.
Because just, I loved that entire, like, that's not just one book or
Yeah,
just
that's a
one
whole
movie.
series.
It's a whole series. I read the whole series growing up.
It was a good series.
It's so good. And it's just like that idea of kind of dilapidated downtown city, but also it's like completely underground. Like,
Yeah.
so you gotta play with lighting because it's like in the book they describe how like you can't see the roof. It's too dark. You can barely see the tops of the buildings. Like, it's just warm lantern light.
Yeah,
And
you're
just
just gonna have
playing with
chains
that.
on chains hanging down, holding lights up.
Yeah, playing with that would be so fun. But no, yeah, this entire, like, this new generation style, it's gonna massively affect everything for terraformers and for structural builders.
Mm-hmm.
Just because everything is different. And I'm excited to, like, hop in and do all of that stuff again because, like I said, also a lot more, like, a lot of blocks that are used by builders for building are easier to get your hands on. Like, resources for actual playing and survival are harder to get your hands on, but for builders,
Yeah,
our lives just got easier.
getting the tools
Yeah.
might take a minute longer, but once you have your tools, the world's your oyster. Just don't let a creeper fall on your head.
Can we talk about how Minecraft has now become logical in biome placement?
Yes.
That is so awesome because now I don't have to just keep searching randomly for a specific type of biome.
Yeah.
I know that if I'm in a birch forest, if I go one way and I start seeing like spruce, I know it's going to get colder and there's going to be more cold, type biomes. And if I start seeing, a different type, like dark oak forests, maybe we're moving into a warmer, there's going to be jungles, mesas, and desert. It just totally makes more sense now. And you don't feel like it's so random anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not gonna have the like. What's one thing I've seen? I've seen like a desert next to a taiga next to a like jungle, and
Right.
it was like why jungle
like
desert
sitting there with
taiga.
savannas and like shattered savannas next to a jungle makes no sense sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So it's easier to find those resources that you need if you know what the climate is,
yeah, it makes me
Right.
curious looking forward with that now, looking into how the mangroves are going to affect it when they bring that specific biome in.
Right.
Well, that's gonna be bordering swamp mostly, isn't it?
I figure it'll be like a cross between swamp and jungle, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was reading the update notes, and they're making it so that the oak trees actually can spawn in deeper water now. So I
Oh,
think
that's
that's
cool.
them slowly making their way towards mangrove.
Yeah.
I think that's also a bit of them testing like how deep can we go with a tree that already exists
Mm-hmm.
without it breaking the water and having leaves in the water, So I think they're testing stuff out now so that they can implement mangroves a lot smoother.
That'll be
just
super
like-
cool.
Yeah, this update's got a lot of different like this update doesn't have a lot of new blocks. It doesn't have new mobs,
No,
but this
we got those
update
in the last
has
one.
changed the game completely. And it's also
Right.
started like if you read the update notes, prepping for the next updates, like prepping for more changes. And honestly, I think we probably, if I read them deeper, we could get some hints onto what they're thinking about adding next.
Well, I was also looking at some of the texture changes that occurred, because like doors had a slight texture change, campfires had a slight texture change, comparators had a texture change, lapis has a slight texture change, the vines and lush caves had a slight texture change, the carved tables had a texture change, the carrot crop growing has a texture change, and there's a bunch more, like stained glass did, axolotls did, drowns have a slight change, and so it's interesting. Oh, apparently Endermen now take damage from splashed water bottles.
That just makes sense.
Yeah. But now, like, goats in their spawning change has also been put into snowy slopes, jagged peaks, and frozen peaks. And I think it's interesting seeing how, like, that's going to affect it. But, like, the biggest change of this update has been the extra 64 and where things spawn. And, like, it's not a massive introduction thing. I think we've been slowly moving towards this for several updates now, actually.
Yeah.
I think we've been, like, prepping for it for a long time and not realized it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying just like the reading your update notes.
Mm-hmm.
Like reading update notes and patch notes, but more specifically the major update notes. Like that is a good way to get a feel for what's coming next.
Right.
Because like I love 1.18. Like that's why we're dedicating it. Like we're dedicating an episode to it because it's amazing. But it's also just like the fact that it's setting up for so much. Like I'm excited for like the wild update, all of that new new
Frogs.
blocks, new wood,
Right.
and then
Right.
following that's going to be like the art. Like I think the archaeology update, which I'm excited for, not because it makes getting diamond blocks and emeralds easier because you can find those, but the idea of a new spawning, like ruin spawning, what that could add to like lore ideas and storytelling
An adventure.
and
Yes.
adventure. And the pots are so cool because they're customizable. Just like
Right.
everything
time I
that
hear
this
you
can
talk about the pot starting, my brain immediately goes to Legends of Zelda and Link just hitting them.
Right.
I love Legend of Zelda. I was gonna don't give away my ideas, Oni. I was gonna make a Zelda themed build as soon as it came out.
Do it.
Because we're also getting mud next update, like
Oh yeah.
Right.
mud bricks.
Right.
Hey, Ferks, for your lovely exploration thing, are you aware of the fact that buried treasure chests can now contain water-breathing potions, meaning you don't have to go to the Nether to get potions now?
No, I didn't know that. Oh, now I'm excited. I'm
That's
super
amazing.
excited.
I'm still reading the patch notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that nobody's talked about is the color of the water
Oh yeah.
in the caves.
It's
Oh my
gorgeous.
God.
Okay, I
So-
got a weird one for you though. While
Yeah?
it is gorgeous, we don't get to appreciate how cool and foggy the swamp water is until you see a ravine underneath it.
Right.
Oh.
That is a beautiful fog effect that I wish more people will take advantage of now. Because like you put some cool lighting underneath there, holy smokes, it's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
yellow.
now you
Right.
no longer need to do the glass trick to get the fog.
Not quite as
Right.
much.
But I'm thinking,
Yeah.
like, if you have this huge underground thing and you're like between a bunch of biomes, you can actually use water as a decoration.
Oh yeah.
Because you've got like the deep blue, you've got a green, you've got a light blue, you've got that beautiful cyan, and there's places where the biomes are blending, and it just I'm so excited to be able to build underground and have use water as a block, as a decorative block,
Yeah.
as part of the thing.
I am actually curious. This is something I didn't get the chance to look at. I don't know if Code got to look at this either. In terms of resource gathering, the spawning rate of mine shafts are a little bit higher now. Not to mention that they now generate higher up in the Badlands or the Mesa, as I typically refer to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting because, like, in the hardcore world I opened up a couple days ago, I immediately found myself in 2 mine shafts before I even got, like, down to 0. Like, I went through 2 different mine shafts in the process of trying to find diamonds. And I wonder now if that has actually made an increase in mine shaft availability, like, in them spawning. It doesn't say anything specifically about them. It just says starting room no longer generates with a dirt floor and now generate higher up in Badlands. And so it makes me curious as to if we will have an increase in mine shafts and if that's going to make it even easier to get ore. Hi, Professor.
In general, with Badlands, that is going to be the easiest place to find gold,
Oh, yeah.
like it has before. So when it comes to other ores, I'm not entirely sure. I didn't get a chance to explore the Badlands yet. I did all of my resource stuff in survival, and because it was timed, it was a lot harder to explore the world.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I'm going to guess it's probably fairly similar with other ores, just that the gold is going to be generated a lot more frequently. Either that or it's going to be only gold. Time to find out, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what you were focusing on is early game, and a lot of the times, if you start out the game in a Badlands, you book it to where there's trees. So,
Oh, yeah.
like, I also call it the Mesa, because it was the Mesa.
Yep, it was the Mesa.
It was the Mesa. So it's the Mesa in my heart. But, like, in the Badlands / Mesa, they're the same thing. Like, I don't go there until late game, or if I'm specifically looking for gold and I know where one is. Like, usually I avoid them unless I'm resource gathering, because I don't play survival often, but I do still play it, so I have my own little ways of doing things. But just, like, I feel like it's more of a resource place than it is, like, a place where you would live. So hardcore players would tend to avoid it because of how easy it is for things to spawn everywhere. Same thing with deserts. Like, survival players will avoid it because, like, you can make really cool looking builds. I'm not saying the builds in the Badlands are a bad idea. That sounded funny. But it's just like, if you want to do things...
Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah, but if you want to do things with, like, leaves or grass, it looks so bad. So you can't. And it's like, it's one of the same reason I avoid the, like, savanna biomes too. It's just like the look of grass and leaves makes me sad.
But moss now.
Oh, yeah. No,
Oh yeah,
moss.
but moss.
And you
Right.
don't
You
think
can
about
make
leaves
oasis
being
in
a
the
bad color,
Badlands with moss.
but also
Right.
the azalea leaves are always green.
Azalea, right. Mm-hmm.
No matter
Never
what
mind, my
biome.
point is now gone because of the blocks that were added. Like, no, never mind. No, go build in the Badlands. Build yourself your own little desert oasis.
I mean, I'm doing that currently on the Sleepycraft SMPs. I'm building a desert city, and I am using only azalea leaves because they're the only thing that looks nice.
Right.
Oh, I like that. Never mind. Ignore me. Oasis.
The update
No,
still
that's
hasn't
why it's
clicked for
great
you.
that we're having these discussions because, we've got 4 people here that are excited about the game and can think, sideways of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
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 Oh, now I need to go and actually build something in the Badlands for once. Wait.
Join me in building a cowboy town with a casino. Join me.
I've noticed a lot more like surface mines in both the deserts and the Badlands.
There was an increase in Badlands spawning for that, actually.
Okay.
They now spawn higher up.
Okay. Right. So, yeah.
That
we
would
should be
explain
able to
that
find
one.
Right, that would.
I did read that. Yeah. But I think, honestly, this update is phenomenal. While I am disappointed.
It's a game changer.
It's game changing. I am still disappointed that we haven't gotten the warden yet, but I am okay to wait for it. I am okay to wait for it.
Already like the
Because-
advancements made on it when they showed us why they were moving it back, like the difference from the first announcement to the most recent one.
And the
Like,
underground cities,
Yeah, I'm willing to wait.
I will wait for it.
Right.
I honestly think it's better that it's waiting, especially from a resource gathering standpoint.
Yeah.
I
you get
can't
to learn the
imagine like
environment.
the video that I've made of just trying to gather these resources. I can't imagine like going through just be like, okay, well I had to start over because I got beat to death by the warden in one hit. Like at least it gives some time to get used to the generation style before it comes out.
Yeah, you get to learn how to maneuver the
True.
caves.
Because
True.
imagine like you fall through a cave and you somehow survive because you make it to the bottom, and then the warden is right there behind you.
No.
Just bonk.
Bum,
That
bum.
would
Oh, you survived that fall? Good job. Now die.
Now you're
Yeet.
dead. Now you're dead.
You
The
hit
evil
like iron golems.
Except if
Like
Iron
one, too.
Golems got all of the strength potions at once.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like, I guess you could, from a storytelling perspective, say that they are like corrupted iron golems, like Skulk grew onto them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because we know that things can grow on iron golems because of, like, the vines.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what
Iron
if they're
Golem got lost in a
corrupted?
cave and the Skulk said snack?
Well, I mean, they're underground cities, right? So what if some villagers originally lived underground? They built the iron golems, but then the Skulk came up from the void, because it kind of looks like the void,
Sunken
And-
cities.
affected everything.
Well,
Yeah.
that, or you could use the more dystopian look at it. And, the cities were on the surface at one time and over, because of some cataclysmic event or, just time passing, now they're buried down there.
It makes
And
me
now they've
think
got,
of the Disney
Yeah.
Atlantis movie.
right.
Yes.
Well, now I
Yeah.
gotta find one of those cities and build a giant crystal above it.
No, yeah, but like, as someone who likes, like, because I'm more of a structure builder, but also like book reader, theater kid, I love how Minecraft can be used for storytelling and how it like has its own story, like it has its own story. It's just because it's so sandboxy, you have to like actively like dig and look for it and like theorize what it is. But I love using it as a medium for storytelling, and I think that this update and like the future ones that are planned that we know of are so perfect for like, well, literally world building.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
literal world building.
I love it, and I think it is the perfect update for where we are right now with the game and the people that play the game and those that continue to grow with Minecraft. But unfortunately, we have now approached much longer than our typical episode, and I think we are going to have to wrap it up. So do you have any closing thoughts?
Love it. Love the update.
A
Yeah.
solid thought.
I'd
Yeah.
say now is the time to either get Minecraft if you don't have it or get into it if you haven't played it in a while.
Right.
Because
It's
everything
worth
is
it.
changing and everything
Yep.
is amazing. And it's just,
If you felt left out because you didn't know what was going on, join now. Everybody's confused.
Perfect.
yep.
If all else fails, play creative.
Right.
Yeah.
And until next time, our lovely beans, go play the update and share your thoughts. We got a Twitter. Tweet at us individually if you really want to. But we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.